Hello guys, welcome to my new channel. I'm selling Jove. On our playlist today, on our JavaFX playlist today, we're gonna be connecting our registration page to the database. We're gonna be also connecting our other page, which is login page, to our database. So without further ado, let's go ahead and open the NetBeans. Alright, I already have mine open right here. So what you have to do is you have to open up your services under login and under your project. You should find your services in window and then services, or you can just use Control 5. Alright, now what you need to do, remember on our last video we created a way for us to connect to the database. So right now what you need to do is head back to your services and then let's expand that database. You should, under JavaDB, you should create your database. Alright, let's name our database. I don't know, you can name it whatever you want. I'm just gonna name mine Wolf, and then my username has got to be, it has to be right, administrator, and then my password 123. Right, now that you're done with creating our database, let's wait for it to, it says ready, started and ready to accept connections. Alright, it is up and running. What you need to do is head back to your database and then right click right here, properties. You will find your database URL right here. Alright, let's copy this. Okay, now that you have copied that, what you need to do is to create a new connection. Alright, connection, let's name it con. It has to be equals to driver manager dot get connection. Now we have to use this get connection, which has 3 strings, because the first string is gonna be your database URL, the next is gonna be your username, and the last will be your password. So let's use this one. Alright, the first string has to be your database URL, and the second string has to be your user, which is administrator. Let's see, administrator. Alright, and the last has to be your password. I had my password is my pass 123. It is good now. Alright, there seems to be a problem. We have to actually add a full catch clause or surround the statement with try catch. I personally prefer to use try catch because it is easier to navigate and read. Alright, now that we have our connection, let's close the connection. Connection dot close right here for the sake of clarity. Alright, let's run our application and see if it works. it should work on our submit button. Alright, that is good to go. Let's wait for it. It is taking quite some time to build. Alright, let's run that application and see if it works. Let's press that submit button and see if it works. Alright, we are not seeing any error, but for clarity, what I'm gonna do right here is, before we close the connection, it has to type out that the connection has been established. Alright, it is right there. Let's run it one last time. It is up and running. Connection established. Alright, it is working. Now that we have created the application, we have opened our application, what we need to do is we need to insert, we need to create a statement to insert data. Alright, let's have it like that. But before we create our statement, we need to create our table. We need to create our table and can just right click there and let's have our table as users. The first column has to be, or before, I just need to open up our fxml document in the scene builder so that we see which fields we need to be creating. Right, have first name, last name, email, username, password, and alright, they're pretty much just 5. Alright, first name, last name, email, username, and password. Alright, now that you're done with all this, what you need to do is to create an insert statement. Alright, our statement has to be a string SQL. Let's have it equals to insert into, our table name is users, and these columns, the columns that you have, let me wait, the first column is first name, last name, email, username, as well as password. Now we should insert these values. Our values should be with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Alright. Now, after having this as our SQL, the next step has to be, now that we've created our connection, what we need is to use that connection that we have created. We should have our connection as, oh right, we should have our statement first. Okay, no, prepared statement, sorry. Right. Now that we have created our statement, what we need to do is to make sure that whenever you create or whenever you execute this SQL query, the number of rows actually recorded, and it tells you whether you have successfully updated the your whether you have successfully updated your table or not. So what you need to do right now is to set our first string is okay 1. Now this has to be the first the first uh the first string is gonna be our first name, and we can just write here first name. That's gonna show some or error for now, but we're gonna fix that later. Right, copy this and let's paste it a couple of more times. Sorry about that. Now we have 5 strings right here. Now let's set our string, second string, third and fourth and fifth. It should be last name, mail, password. Oh, sorry about that. It should be username right here for the password, as well as our password. Right. So these values are actually appearing as red because we haven't defined them. So let's go ahead and define them. We have our string first name, which is equals to whatever we get from this field, which is fname dot get text. Right, now what you need is to copy this a couple of times, or 5 times to be precise, and let's change everything. Let's change up our last name. Right, then let's have our last name from here. Let's change this email as well. I should get it from the email field. Alright, let's change this username as well, and we should get our username from username field. Lastly, we should get our password from, also about that, from our password field, and let's have our password as a string as well. Alright, so now that you're done with creating the connection and preparing our statement as the SQL, what we need to do right now that we have set our statement and its variables, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what you need to do is, let's set our int rows. Right, rows inserted, it has to be equals to our statement, which is statement dot execute update. Right, and now that you're done with inserting our row, we should check if the row has successfully been inserted. So what you need to do is to create an if statement that says if rows inserted greater than 0. Alright, sorry. Greater than 0, then you should print out that successfully updated. Right, if that's not the case, then you should print out that there was an error updating. That's just it. What you need from this code is to check if everything is working. Alright, let's check. Let's have our first name. Right, it is saying right here that the connection has been established and successfully updated. Let's go ahead and check our database if it worked. Let's go and tap view data. It is already executing our. Alright, here we have our data right here, wolf, and everything that I entered, the way I entered it, and it is working. Alright, now that we have our application connected and running, what we need is to pass on to the next phase of this video, which will be focusing on getting that data from our database. Alright, so you're gonna need this we're gonna need this for our login page, because a user has to be first registered and then they can just log in just like that. Alright guys, welcome to phase 2 of this application. We're gonna be connecting our login page with our database. Okay, so in our last video we had our submit button is a simple submit button that does not do anything. Well, what it did was to actually navigate you to the next page, which is the welcome page if you had the password right. But we used the preset password. Now what you're gonna do is we're gonna be retrieving our password from our database. So the first thing that we need to do is to create a connection to the database. Alright, connection, let's name it con1 per se. Okay, let's connection 1 has to be driver manager dot get connection. Now remember, we have to use the get connection that has 3 strings. Already, that has three strings. The first string has to be our URL, and then the next has to be your username for the database, and as well as the password. So we already did that in our last phase. So let's copy off this code, and everything should be fine. Okay, let's terminate that. Now what you have to do is to surround this in a try catch statement. Right, I already told you why I prefer to use the try catch statement. Is because it is kind of easier to work with, and other than this other statements. Okay, so right now what you need to do is to create our query. Let's create our query, and it should be string dot, let's create a format. Right, so since we are creating a format for this, what we need to do is to have, let's select all from our table name, which is users, where username is equals to let's as equals to a string that we're going to set later, and the password has to be equals to the string that we're also going to set later. No. Okay, so now what you have to do is to set our strings. The first string has to be the username. We have already created our strings that get this from our username, our user fields, as well as our pass fields. So the other string has to be our password. Alright, now that we have our query like that, what we need to do is to statement, let's call it stm, is equals to our connection dot create statement. It should be just like that. Right, the next step is to create our result set. everything seems to be going as planned. So the next step, to have our result set, let's create a while loop that uses that result set. While rs dot next, there should be rs here. What this code has to do is to set our string username as rs dot get string from which column? Our username column. Correct. We also need to set our path as rs.getString from our password column. Right. So let's set a new let's make sure that if the user has the right username and password, meaning if user equals null or password is equals null, what we have to do is to tell the user that wrong but if this is not the case, then it means they have the right username and the right password. What we have to do is to navigate to the new home page, which is our home page right here. We had our home page run. We need to also tell the user that they have gained access. Right, so after this message has been created, what you need to do is to close the connection. Let's close the rs first. rs.close, and let's close the connection as well. Alright, let's copy this too and let's paste them right here as well. Everything seems to be where it is supposed to be. Now let's check if everything works. Right, let's test out our code. What you have to do now is to check if everything works. First of all, to make sure that we get the details right, let's run that our SQL script. Let's run it. Can you see? Okay, here's the output. Okay, what you need to do is to run the code as well to make sure that we get the details right, and let's not mess up everything. Alright, let's go back to our database. We have the username here and the password. Let's try that one out. Okay, we can try user and password is 123. Everything seems to be working. It passed on to our next scene, which is scene 2, and it shows right here that you have gained access. Right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you in our next video. I'm gonna be creating a dedicated video to show you all the CRUD operations that you can perform using JavaFX. Alright, I'll see you next time, and please subscribe and leave a thumbs up on my video if you like it. Peace.